Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this video from. I'm Erin Skelly. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Services here at Berkeley International Office, and I am here to give you an early welcome to UC Berkeley to prepare for the spring. We have an Applying for Your Student Visa webinar. So this is for new students. If you're a new student attending for spring, this webinar is for you. So I'm just going to jump right in and get into some important information. So just to check in first, the first thing we always want to check in is making sure that if you're watching this, you are in the right place. So is this for me? Berkeley International Office serves a lot of different international folks, and we have different workshops and webinars. This one is for students who have or will have an I-20 or DS 2019 from UC Berkeley, not UC Berkeley Extension, UC Berkeley, and you are new, meaning it's your first time coming here, or you're readmitted. You came here before and now you've been readmitted by your college and you're coming back to study again, and you are a degree-seeking student, or you are a new UC EAP exchange student. And if you're a J1, please be mindful that if you're a J1 student, in section 4 of your DS 2019, you are listed as a student non-degree, a student bachelor, student master's, or student doctorate. I'm telling you this because we have other kinds of J1s, and this is not the webinar for them. So you are not a J1 scholar, a J1 postdoc, or a J1 visiting student researcher. So J Scholar or visiting student researcher would be listed on your DS 2019. If you have questions about applying for your visa or entry to the US, this is the right webinar. If you have other questions, like you want to ask about working or changing your visa category or academic issues, this is not the right webinar for you. That's for advising. And I'll give you information about how to seek advising later, but we're just here to talk about applying for your visa and entering the US. Okay, so before we get started, we're going to go through just some kind of information about the current immigration landscape and some impacts and changes. So right now, U.S. immigration policy is kind of changing every day. There's a lot of shifts in U.S. immigration policy, and our office is here to make sure that you are up to date and aware of the changes. We welcome you, and we want you to know that we really value your presence as part of our academic community, even if some of these policy changes make things more difficult to navigate. We're here to help you navigate. Immigration policy is unpredictable and it's subject to rapid change. We are committed to keeping you up to date, and we have resources and information. So tips for you. Talk to us, Berkeley International Office, if you have questions or concerns. We are the office at the university that is here to advise you on your specific F1 or J1 immigration status. No one else at the university is authorized to do that. Read your emails. I know we send a lot of emails, but they're really important, especially when they are immigration policy related. It's really important that you treat that as you would a class, that you really read it and that you make sure you understand the content. We have a website. It has lots of information. We have a bunch of resources for you that are related to immigration updates and policy changes. We have an email archive. We have a Know Your Rights page. We have immigration policy changes. We have immigration policy updates. We have a legal assistance page. We also provide travel information and information about how to properly maintain your status. So just make sure that you're utilizing this information. If you miss an email, you can go back and read it in our email archive. Okay, so just making sure people are aware, if you're new, I'm not sure if we have anyone who will be watching this video who is impacted by the travel ban, but there is still currently a 19-country travel ban that was enacted by the government, and that's impacting a specific set of countries. And those countries are listed in the slide. I would say take a look. And the issue is if you were outside the US and you did not have a valid F1 or J1 visa on June 9th, then you cannot enter the US currently. And you will not be able to obtain a visa to come to the US because those countries are under a visa and entry ban. If you are a student, so who's impacted, you're outside of the US and you didn't have a valid visa on June 9th. So both things would be true. Exceptions, so we have some students who are actually inside the US on June 9th, or who are outside, but they had a valid visa on that date and the visa is still valid for entry. If that's true for you, then the travel ban is likely not going to impact you. Or if you're a dual national and you're traveling on a passport from a non-designated country. So if you think that you're impacted by this travel ban or you have questions, contact our office. So I'll just go back one more time just to show the actual countries: Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen. Also impacted are Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. So all of these countries are impacted. You may hear a difference in terms of a full ban or a partial ban. That's just because different visa categories were applied to the bans, but basically all of these apply to F and J visas. Okay, so let's get into the kind of the normal things. So if you're not from a travel ban country, which I don't think most of you are, what type of visa do I need? So if you're coming to the university to study, you'd be coming on a student visa. That's an F1 or J1 student visa. The F1 and the J1 are both non-immigrant visas. That means you are coming to the US and you do not have the intention to stay here forever. You're coming here for a specific purpose. You don't intend to immigrate and stay here permanently, and you will do what it is that you're here to do, which is to study and experience practical training if that applies to you. And then you will depart the US following the end of your program of F1 or J1. It allows you to remain in the US for the duration of that program of study and practical training. Both F1 and J1 do come with some, I will say, limited employment benefits. We will not get into that right now. We will send you information about that. We have lots of information for you. But if you're not sure what's right for you, you can check our website, F1 or J1, which status is right for you. Just noting, most UC EAP come on a J1 visa. It's very rare for us to have an F1 on UC EAP. So if you're on EAP, you're probably coming on a J. But otherwise, most degree-seeking students come on an F. Other visa categories that allow studies. So sometimes we get questions from students who are in other categories, H4 dependents, J2s, which is a dependent of Js, E2s, TD. Those categories do allow study. Visitor visas, tourist, ESTA, B1, B2, absolutely prohibit study. F2 prohibits full-time study, so that's a dependent of an F1. So just be mindful, if your primary purpose is to study, you should probably be on a student visa. If you're here doing something else like working or accompanying a spouse, then it may be that you can study without the need of a student visa, but you might want to check in with us because it might make more sense for your plans to change to a student visa. Okay, so here's the application process. Hopefully folks have gotten started, and this isn't your first introduction, but if it is, well, we'll get you all the information you need. So this is just an overview, and we'll go through each of the steps. New and readmitted students, first you're going to submit the NIF form to the Berkeley International Office. So the NIF is the Non-Immigrant Information Form. It's an online form that you submit that has information about you, and that allows us to create an I-20 or DS-2019 document that we will send to you. Then once you have the I-20 or DS-2019, you must pay the SEVIS fee. Then you can complete an online visa application called the Form DS-160, and you pay a visa application fee. So notice these are separate fees. Then you schedule your visa interview and appointment. Then you attend the visa interview. And if all goes well, you get your passport back with an F1 or J1 visa in it. So now we're going to get into each of these steps. So our general recommendation is to apply as early as possible. Get your process started, get it going. NIF processing is 10 to 15 business days. So once we finish processing your NIF form, your I-20 or DS 2019 will be emailed directly to you. We have an arrival process timeline for an overview that goes into all the steps and the estimated timeline for how long each step will take. Visa processing time. So the first step is getting your documents. The second step is going through all the visa stuff. That's what takes longer. Wait times for visa appointments and processing really vary by location. So we recommend you begin your process as early as possible to avoid delays. You can locate your consulate location and find the current wait times at the link here. And everyone will get a copy of this presentation. Okay, so getting started, you complete your NIF form. You provide us information about you, copy of your passport, proof of evidence of funding for your studies, and we will issue you an I-20 or DS 2019. I-20 is for F1s. You can see that in the back. J1s get a DS 2019. That is in the front. So this allows you to apply for an F1 or J1 student visa, and it is also part of the documents that you use to apply for entry to the US whenever you're coming and going. This document contains details about you, your school, and your program of study. In order to get this, you have to complete the NIF form. We will email this to you. You will be issued on this document a unique SEVIS ID number, and that number is important for the rest of your time as an F1 or J1, and that number is needed when you're applying for a visa to enter the US. So the SEVIS ID is located in the top right corner of the J1 DS 2019, top left for the F1. So next step, once you have that I-20 or DS 2019, your next step is going to be to pay the SEVIS fee. SEVIS is a government system. It's a database. You'll hear this word a lot. So SEVIS is the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. So this is sort of your electronic record. This SEVIS fee, you pay directly to the government, and it's basically for creating and maintaining this government database and your unique record. It is not a fee paid to the school or anyone else. We recommend that you make this SEVIS ID, that you make this payment at least 3 days before applying for a visa. The fee amount is subject to change, and you may pay it online, and you can find the most up-to-date information at this webpage, which is fmjfee.com. So that refers to the visa categories, F, M, and J. Berkeley has Fs and Js. We don't have Ms, but FYI, there is another type of visa called an M visa. You don't qualify for that. After you pay the SEVIS fee, save your receipt. Save that document on your computer in a safe location, and or print it out and save that paper receipt in a safe place. So I'm going to stop here. If anyone tuning in is a Canadian citizen, Canadian passport holder, you do not need to take the next step, which is to apply for a visa. You will need to apply at the border for entry with specific entry documents. But the next phase of this webinar is going to talk about applying for a visa at an embassy or consulate. Canadian citizens, because of the relations between our countries, we allow you to skip that step where you don't have to get a visa in your passport. Everything else about Canadians is the same. Often our Canadian students have an idea that other rules don't apply to you. The only thing that doesn't apply to you is we just make it easier on your entry that you don't have to go to an embassy and get a visa in your passport. Everything else applies to you the same. All the same rules apply to you, employment, travel, everything else. So if you're Canadian, you can maybe take a break and come back when we discuss entering the US. Okay, so those who do need a visa, which is everybody that's not Canadian, um, you're going to find the US Embassy or consulate in your country of nationality or residence. So you go to usembassy.gov. Please don't just randomly Google or ask ChatGPT. Please go to this website and go from there. Internet information can be uh, a little messy. There are a lot of fake and spam websites out there. So you always want to go to the original source and then go from there. Check your local embassy or consulate's website for specific visa application instructions. So once you find your embassy or consulate, their website is going to have specific instructions for that location. And it's a little different all over the world, like how you make your payment, how you get your documents, things, how you do all those things. And it's not going to be the same everywhere. um, so as you proceed, be aware that you have to schedule your visa interview appointment at the US Embassy or Consulate in your country of nationality or residence. Rare exceptions can be made for humanitarian or medical emergencies or foreign policy, but if you don't have one of those extremely serious reasons, you need to be applying in your country of nationality or residence, and you're applying for a non-immigrant visa. If you are applying in your country of residence, but you're a citizen, a national of a different country, the place of application is based on residency, and you need to be able to demonstrate that you're a resident in the country in which you're applying. And generally, this means that you have some kind of legal residency documentation. This is a recent change. It used to be that people had more freedom to apply in different places, but this is one of the policy changes that has come in the last uh, 11 months. So some students are coming from countries where the US government doesn't have routine non-immigrant visa operations. If that is the case, then there's a designated embassy and consulate list. So you'll have to find your country on the list and see what your designated embassy or consulate is. And you'll have to apply there unless your residence is somewhere else. So it kind of depends on what your situation is. So starting the application, what you will be submitting is called the DS-160 form. This is an online visa application form, and it's used for all non-immigrant visas. And that's important for you to know because the form is pretty generic. It may ask you a lot of really kind of generic questions. Just be aware this is made for lots of visa categories. So something for you to be aware of, visas can't be issued from inside the US. You have to actually be physically present in the country in which you're applying for the visa. So, again, your body needs to be where you're doing the application. Make sure answers to all your questions are answered accurately and honestly. We get a lot of worries and questions from students. So my advice is just read the question and answer exactly what it's asking. Often I find students overthink, but just read the question, answer it exactly the question that's being asked. And if you're not sure, there's often little help buttons that will give you further information, or you can contact our office and we can try to help you understand if it's unclear. When you finish, when you go through the full application and you finish, you'll get a confirmation page with a barcode. And you want to print that. Tips. So these are common questions that we get. So we're going to give you some common answers to help you fill out the form. Your US point of contact. There's a link here that'll take you to our Berkeley International Office contact information. You can use our address and our phone number and the name of the DSO on your I-20 or DS 2019. So a school official issued your document. You can use that person's name as your contact. That's one of our staff members. Or if you actually have a US-based family member or friend, you could use that person's contact. That's totally fine too. The other question we get is, what do I do? It's asking me for the address where I'll stay in the US. It's okay if you don't know where you're going to live long term, but at this moment, you need to think about, well, where will I sleep when I first arrive? If you know that you have a dormitory or a residence hall, or you've already booked an apartment, great. But otherwise, well, what's your plan? You're getting in at the airport. What are you going to do? Well, you might need to come up with a plan. So provide an address where you may stay when you first arrive, a hotel, a friend's house, etc. So you need to answer something, and this is a moment where you need to come up with it. Photo. You'll upload your photo while completing the online form, and there's photo guidelines on the Department of State website that'll tell you exactly what the photo needs to look like. So other tips. There have been recent executive orders, and the DS-160 has removed the gender option and now requires applicants to enter sex assigned at birth. If you have questions or concerns about this, please check in with the Berkeley International Office for further advising. We know this could be difficult or distressing for some students who have documentation where these things do not match. So please check in with us so we can have a conversation and see what we can do to assist you and make sure that you understand the instructions. Also to be aware, we are now in a phase of what's called enhanced vetting and review that includes social media and your entire online presence. This is comprehensive vetting to determine applicants that applicants for these visas intend to only engage in activities consistent with the visa status. So for you, that you're coming here to study, that's what you're here to do, and you don't pose a threat to U.S. national security. The DS-160 requests social media account information, and they also request that you make your accounts publicly viewable. Just be aware of that this is going to be part of the review of your application. If your application is not set to public, it may delay your visa application. You may be requested to make it public. It's really up to you how you choose to proceed, but be aware this is just now part of the application itself. And thinking about your online presence, what's out there about you. It's definitely a time, that everyone might want to just think about what they're putting out into the world and that everyone in the world has access to. So, just thinking your online presence should reflect compliance with US laws and visa regulations. You should also consider if your social media presence presents a professional and appropriate representation of yourself as you would wish to be viewed by a visa or other immigration officer. We sent an email earlier in the year. The top portion of the email would likely be helpful for you as we go into a lot of detail about this social media and vetting and the kind of things that the U.S. is concerned about, particularly in relation to national security. So please take a look at that email and see what the social media entails, the social media and vetting entails. Okay, next. You're going to have to pay the visa fee. It's non-refundable. So once you pay it, you can't get the money back, even if things don't go well with your visa or if you change your mind. It's sometimes called the MRV fee or the NIV application fee. If you see that terminology, that's normal. Payment instructions are specific to your local embassy. All the consulates, embassies have different instructions. Print your receipt. Make sure that you keep that. And then you're going to schedule your interview appointment. Follow the instructions given by your U.S. Embassy or consulate where you intend to apply. Our general advice for most countries is don't wait to schedule. Schedule as soon as you can possibly get an interview. During winter, be mindful that there's holiday closures, so there's maybe more limited appointments. Wait times appointments can be longer during spring or summer months due to high volume. Timing. So there is a particular issue that can come up for students from specific countries. Currently, our awareness is those countries tend to be in Africa, the Mideast, some in Southeast Asia. Some visas can be issued for as short as 3 months. This changes kind of on a daily basis. The U.S. determines the max length that a visa can be issued. And when a visa gets issued, it's generally issued with an immediate start date. So if you get approval tomorrow, you're going to have a visa start date that's tomorrow. So if you only have a 3-month visa, that could be impactful if your start date is really far in the future. Scheduling an interview too early could result in receiving a visa that'll expire before the start of the program. This maximum length and number of entries is determined by the visa category and country of citizenship. It's also at the discretion of a visa officer, so you don't really have a ton of control over it. You can check, there's a link to the reciprocity table for your country of citizenship, and you can look up the visa category, and that'll give you the max length. So if you think you might be impacted by this, you could check the reciprocity table and see if this is something that might impact you. Preparing for the interview. So I think this is where we get students getting maybe the most nervous. The application is an application, but an interview, it can make people feel a little more anxiety. So check your consulate so that you're prepared. And you'll need they will have a list of documents you need, and you will absolutely need to bring these things, but potentially others depending on your consulate. You need your passport. You need your I-20 or DS 2019. You need your acceptance letter printed out in your hands, I-20 or DS 2019 printed out in your human hands. And if you're a readmitted student, so you've been readmitted to the university, you need proof of your enrollment for that future term and or proof of your readmission. You need proof of your financial support printed out. CVIS fee receipt printed out. DS-160 confirmation page printed out. You can't just shove your phone into the visa officer's face, right? You actually need to have paper that you're carrying with you. If you're asked for the documents, you're going to hand them to this person, not digital documents. So the interview, what can you expect? Number one, be prepared. Arrive early, find out what items you're not allowed to take inside the building. A lot of the buildings have security and you don't want to get stuck in security. You're going to wait a while, so wait for your number to be called. And then the interview, it's short. It's just a few minutes. I think students are expecting something really long. It's usually like 2 to 3 minutes. And in this 2 to 3 minutes, the officer has to establish that you are who you say you are, that you're coming here to do what you're expected to do, and that you have the ability to pay for what you're going to do, and that you're not going to do anything naughty while you're here. So they're interested in your studies. So, what are you doing? Are you able to articulate what it is that you're coming here to do? Are you in an exchange program? Are you in a degree program? If you're in a degree program, what are you coming here to study? What is your intended major if you're a new student? If you're in a graduate program, what's your area of study? They're interested in your non-immigrant intent, that you actually don't plan to stay here forever, that you are coming here for school and you have other plans when you finish your education in the United States. Financial ability. Well, do you have the funding to actually do what you say you're going to do here? And that funding is what's listed on your I-20 or DS 2019. Is this real? Do you have evidence of that? And how do you explain how you're funding your studies? Language ability. Well, obviously you need to have the level of language in order to do what you're coming here to do, which is to do an exchange semester or to study a full-time PhD program or master's or bachelor's program in English. So generally this is not an issue for our Berkeley folks, but just keep in mind that's what they're focusing on, is that your ability is at the level that you're coming to do things. So tips. Take deep breaths, be ready, and answer questions concisely and honestly. So this is very important. Again, just like the application itself, when you are asked a question, answer the question you're asked. You don't need to provide lots of information or extra stuff or tell stories about your life. You're just going to answer the question that's asked, and always be honest. Also be aware that, of course, we mentioned they may have conducted a social media review. and or an online review of your activities, and they might ask you questions related to what they see. Be mindful of what information you've posted online. If you don't understand something, it's really important that you don't be afraid to ask. So if you don't understand the question, if you're nervous and you just blanked out and you missed the question, just ask. Can you repeat that? Or I missed the question. It's much better to clarify than it is to answer incorrectly or to say the wrong thing because you didn't actually understand. And of course, be respectful and courteous. If you experience any rude or unfriendly behavior, please let us know. Also just be aware, sometimes people are just, they're workers. So you may be treated kind of transactionally, but they shouldn't be treating you disrespectfully or, saying anything rude. But, it may be brisk. They might not have had their coffee in the morning. So they might not be cheerful, but they should be professional. And you yourself should be professional, respectful, and courteous. Okay, so hopefully everything goes well. Most of the time, everything goes well. So eventually, you get a visa. So you'll want to check your embassy website or your email instructions for passport pickup or delivery. Once you get your passport, as soon as you get it, I want you to open it, look at that visa, and you want to check your name. Is that your name? Is that, is everything right? Is your birthday right? Is that your photo? And is the visa classification right? It should say F1 or J1. If it says the wrong thing, if anything's wrong, you need to correct it. And you want to correct it before you end up at the airport with somebody confused because you have the wrong visa or the information's wrong. So you'll notice on the visa that it will indicate a link that'll have a start date and it'll have an end date and it'll have a number of entries. As we discussed before, the length and number of entries is determined by your visa category and your country of citizenship. It's also subject to the visa officer's discretion. So even if your maximum length is longer, a visa officer theoretically could give you a shorter amount of time. Check the visa reciprocity table for what kind of the general maximums are for your country and visa category, but pay attention when you get that visa. Also, just to let you know, the visa doesn't determine the length of your stay in the US. It's just a document that's used to enter the US. So it just means that is a travel document that's only valid for a specific period. Administrative processing. So this is the other path. So maybe you don't get your visa right away, and you may be put into what's called administrative processing. You may face a delay. If you have concerns about delayed arrival, if your administrative processing is going fairly long, if it's been, several weeks and you're getting close to the start of instruction, contact us. Some cases generally resolve in a few weeks. Average processing can be anywhere from 60 to 90 days, depending. In some cases where there is maybe a long security clearance, it can take as long as 6 months. We have links that will explain administrative processing, and our office also has a webpage about it. The thing I can tell you is there's generally not much we can do about this. It just means they are doing further processing of your case. We are in a realm, like I said, of enhanced vetting, so visas just take a little bit longer, and we are seeing an uptick in the amount of students that face administrative processing. Okay, so if things don't go well, so this is kind of the not happy end. If you get a denial, it happens. We don't get a ton of denials, but we do get some. If your visa is denied, make sure you got the reason of the denial in writing. Generally, an officer will hand you a piece of paper. It will have a reason. The reason will be very basic, but they will tell you the reason in writing. Make notes. Make detailed notes about the interview, the officer's name, the questions that you asked, your answers, what documents you provided. All of this is going to be important because then you need to email our office, international office at berkeley.edu, and recount the details. Tell us what happened because we are going to try to figure out what to do next, how to help you. And information about your interview will help us give you advice, because the only way to overcome a denial is to apply for a new visa. But you should not apply again until you get some advising, because you will have to overcome the original denial reason. And that's what we want to look into and see if we have any clues or, anything that could help you better prepare and reapply. Okay, so those coming with families, if you are bringing dependents, so that would be an F2 is a dependent, that's a child or spouse of an F1, or a J2, child or spouse of a J. Who's eligible? Children under 21 and legally married spouses, not domestic partnerships. It has to be that you have gone through a legally marriage process. That legal marriage could be in your home country or it could be in a different country. So it really doesn't matter where you're legally married, that you must be legally married somewhere and have evidence of that. How do they apply for the visa? It's pretty much exactly what we just went through. All the things are the same. They can apply together with the F1 or J1 or independently. They will need copies of their own documents and copies of the primary status holder, the J1, copies of all their documents. So the J2, the F2, they'll have their own DS 2019, they'll have their own passport, but they also need to have copies of the J1's DS 2019, J1's passport, J1's funding information, proof of the J1's enrollment or admission, all those things. For more information, we have an inviting family webpage that'll give you full details. Okay, so arriving in the US, you can enter the US up to 30 days before the program start date on the I-20 or DS 2019. For many, there's a typo here. So for many spring 2026 programs, the program start date is January 13th, 2026. Ignore the word fall there. The earliest admission date, that's the first date that you can enter the US, would be December 14th, 2025. But don't trust me. Check your documents, because I don't know what your individual document looks like. So on the F1 I-20, you want to look on page 1. You'll see program start and end date, and you will see earliest admission date. Earliest admission date is the first day that you can enter the US. DS 2019s, you have a start and an end date. Unfortunately, it doesn't calculate the earliest admission, so you might need to use a date calculator and calculate exactly 30 days before that. But you cannot enter the US before that. I don't care what your plans are. You can't do that as an F1 or J1. If you had a plan to enter earlier, you need to contact our office. We cannot change your start date. It is absolutely not possible, but we can talk to you, try to understand your plans and give you some advice. I'll be honest, our advice is going to be you need to enter within 30 days. There might be other options like entering as a tourist, but then you'll have to leave and come back again, which is not a good idea. There's risk to that. So make your plans within the appropriate 30-day window. If you transferred your I-20, if you've been attending a school in the US and you transferred your I-20 with the same SEVIS ID number to Berkeley, or you've been attending school in the US, you had a DS 2019 and you transferred that DS 2019 with the same SEVIS ID number to Berkeley, you are not subject to that 30-day limit because you have a continuous record. You just transferred that record, but you can still travel freely as long as you have the right documents for travel. But this is a much, much smaller group. So if you know who you are, that you transferred, you had an I-20, you transferred, that would apply to you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've never been in school in the US and you didn't transfer, you're subject to 30 days. We recommend entering at least a week before your classes begin, and to make sure you arrive before any required orientation events and activities. Okay, so getting ready for arrival. So you've finally got your visa, you're within your 30 days, you're ready to go. So what do you need to do? Carry all your required documents with you not in the bag that you check with your luggage. Okay, you want it in your carry-on bag that is with you while you're traveling. Um, if possible, arrive during Berkeley International Office hours, Monday to Friday, from 10 to 12 or 1 to 4 p.m. If possible, go through the San Francisco International Airport, which is our closest international airport, and we have a better ability to be in communication with them if there's a problem. If you have a problem, request that CBP call our office. Don't bring restricted items. So there's a lot of restricted items. You can see the link there, but this tends to be things like if you're traveling with medication, food, or pets, there's rules about those things, and you need to make sure that you're following the rules, or there's just things you can't take with you. I'm going to say kind of a couple things because it happens. We have students run into problems every year. Medical and recreational marijuana, cannabis, is illegal under US federal law. You may have heard it's legal in California. It is not legal through the US federal, the whole state of United States law. It is absolutely illegal for you. Possession or use can result in deportation or incarceration. So what does that mean? Being deported from the United States or being put in jail. So don't bring this into the United States. It is illegal to bring paraphernalia to use prohibited substances to the United States. Drug paraphernalia is illegal unless it's prescribed for authentic medical conditions, like, I don't know, you have diabetes and you have medical devices. Also be aware that CBP can inspect your electronic devices if they ask to look at your electronic devices. You can see tips on how to prepare your devices for travel if you have concerns about having your devices inspected. Okay, so what do you need to enter the US? Oh, I forgot to say, maybe I'll just be clear. Canadians, please tune back in, and you'll need to start with arriving in the US and make sure that you have been paying attention to what is required for arrival. But here are the documents. Be prepared to present the following documents to your CBP officer. You're going to need to show your passport. It should be valid for at least 6 months into the future, and that passport should have a valid F1 or J1 non-immigrant visa. So valid means not expired. If you're Canadian, your passport would not have a visa in it. You need your original printed out, signed by your human hand, I-20 or DS 2019. You need evidence of your financial resources. And that should be recent financial resources. Proof of your UC Berkeley admission if you're a new student, or your enrollment if you're a readmitted or a current student. Proof of your CVIS fee payment printed out. Again, all these things need to be paper documents that you can show to a border officer. You don't want to just hand them your phone. Officers may ask you questions about your reasons for entering, where you're traveling, or about your academic program. So I know some of your flights are late. You've been on a plane for like 15 hours. Get off the plane, do what you need to do, shake your head, jump up and down, get yourself awake, and be able to talk about why you're coming here. Every once in a while, we hear from students who are so groggy, the officer asks them, why are you here? And they can't even come up with it. Where are you going to school? So wake yourself up. If you encounter problems, please contact us as soon as possible. Okay, so this is our contact information, international office at berkeley.edu. That's where you send your general questions. If you have questions specifically about your NIF, send it to nif@berkeley.edu. But I will tell you, one question we do not want to answer is, where's my I-20? Okay, you can log into your NIF form and you can see what the expected due date is for your I-20 or DS 2019. If it is not past that due date, you have no reason to ask us where your document is. It's not ready yet. We're still working on it. But if you're having problems with your NIF or you're filling out the NIF and you don't understand something, please contact this email. We have a phone number. We have advising hours, 10 to 12 and 1 to 4. 10 to 12, that Pacific time is virtual. So if you're not in the US, you can join virtually. In the afternoon, we have in-person advising. Okay, so that is the end of the informational portion of the webinar. I'm just going to hold it open for if we have any student questions. If you want to put your questions in the chat, then I can answer questions in the chat. And if we don't have any questions, then we'll go ahead and end. And I'm wishing all of you safe travels to the US. I know we have a small audience in this webinar, so if the few of you have questions, please feel free to put it in the chat now. Okay, I see some questions. Super, thank you. What happens if I can't book an interview due to the lack of them? So this is a common question. You need to keep checking every day. You can also, if you're within 30 days of your start date, you can, there is generally some way to contact your consulate regarding expedited or emergency visas. So you'd indicate that you're a student applying for this category, and that you need a visa appointment within X amount of time. Yeah, so make sure that you're looking at that, but also just checking every day, because a lot of times new appointments will open up. So you're just going to log in, set a time for yourself every day, log in and check. If you are getting close to your start date, and if you're getting to, I would say, early January, you still don't have a visa appointment, reach out to our office so that we can talk about what your options are. Generally, exchange students are not permitted to arrive late. So we may have to start thinking about some contingency options if you can't get a visa interview. But please contact us. I would say if it's early January and you're still not having any luck. Where can we find information about social media control? Because I'm not sure I received it. So yeah, let me go back. Uh, Okay. You'll receive a copy of this presentation, and there's a link here under the DS-160, and we sent an email. You can also look in our email archive, and it was specifically about social media and vetting. It was earlier in the year, so you may not have received it, but it contains a lot of more detailed information about the nature of the social media and vetting. Okay, any other questions? All right, thanks everybody. And if you do have questions, you're welcome to email internationaloffice@berkeley.edu, and we'll do our best to respond to your emails. We respond within 3 business days, so we'll get back to you and let you know, and make sure that you get on the path to getting here for spring. So looking forward to seeing you all, wishing you happy holidays, whatever your holidays are, and a beautiful winter season, and we'll see you in January.